Well, we'll call the meeting to order. It's time. So we'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask Sheriff McAndrew, would you lead us, please?
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome back. Nice to see all the faces. Yeah, I don't see any it's not nice to see, so glad we're back in person. And, everybody looks good. Nobody looks like they've aged too much, so that's always a plus. District Attorney Powell is at a District Attorney's Conference today, so he advised us in advance that he would not be here, so everybody else is here. So I trust everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from our last meeting. Tracy always reliably sends out well in advance of the meeting, and assuming so, I'll entertain a motion to approve if nobody has any questions.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
We got a second on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes from June 2021 are approved. Anybody from the public wish to address agenda items only? Joan.
Joan Hodawana, Scranton. It's nice to be back. I just would ask that when Mr. Jeffers and Warden Beatty present their reports, if they could talk a little about manning issues. Do we have sufficient staffing at the prison, especially in terms of correctional officers, and the impact on overtime? I took a brief look at the attachments for this meeting, and I noticed that we've almost exhausted the overtime budget for the entire year, and we're only halfway through the year. The concern, of course, is in the event we have a major resurgence of the virus this fall with this Delta variant, you could have additional manning problems and a further increase in overtime. So I'd like to know, how you foresee that impacting this year's budget. And are you going to take into account the possibility of this virus dragging on into 2022 and what it might do for your manning and overtime issues? So when Mr. Jeffers and Warden Beatty present the reports, if they could just address those issues. Thank you.
Okay, we'll make sure they do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Anybody else on agenda items? Okay. So first thing on the agenda is a motion to approve all the current payables for the Community Corrections Center and the prison. Once again, I trust everybody's had an opportunity to review those, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. All current payables for the Community Corrections Center and the prison are approved. So we'll turn to the reports. Controller DeBillio, would you favor us with your report, please?
Yes, Your Honor. The Controller's Office reviewed the prison inmate and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the Prison Business Office for the month of June 2021, and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statements. The balance in the inmate account was $665,124.64 as of June 30th, 2021. The balance in the canteen checking account was $628,537.94 as of June 30th, 2021. And in addition, as of June 30th, the canteen account owned two certificates of deposit, one valued at $15,000 even, and the other at $132,294.38, which totals $147,294.38. And that concludes my controller's report for the prison, inmate, and canteen accounts for June of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. DeBilio. Can I have a motion to approve the controller's report?
Motion.
On a second? On the question, any questions for Mr. DeBilio? Okay, then, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The controller's report for June is approved.
Good afternoon, Board.
Mr. Jeffers for the Community Corrections Center report. Were you here when Ms. Hodawanitz? Okay,
I'll answer that.
okay.
The Community Corrections Report for June 2021. Item 1, our program's totals, adult house arrest had 154 participants, and juvenile house arrest had 17 participants. Item 2, the program's revenues totaled for the month of June $64,639.73. Item 3, our program's expenses totaled $81,192.57. Item 4, the program's completions were 31. Item 5, the program's violations were 10. Item 6, our program's warrants are still outstanding, 5 for work release and 4 for house arrest. And item 7, our budget report up to the end of June. Overtime is at 2%, expenses are at 44%, and revenue is at 61%. Referring to Ms. Hodawanitz's question, all of the officers that are employed at the house arrest are fully vaccinated. Overtime.
Keep your,
I'm sorry. Your
That's
Honor.
okay, thanks.
All of our staff members are fully vaccinated at the correctional center, the community correctional center, and our overtime is at 2% through June 30th of this year. We're having very, very rare when we have to call someone out for overtime. In fact, I can't remember within the last maybe 6 pay periods where we signed off on a voucher for overtime. So we're prepared for overtime if that comes, but we're also highly vaccinated, so we don't see any problems in the future. I don't know if that answers, Jones, are you happy with that? Thank you.
You feel your staffing is adequate?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're in good shape, very good shape. As a matter of fact, the numbers keep holding steady with the judges. We keep talking to the judges and the magistrates about putting everybody on the bracelet. At 154, we had 41 released or went back to prison in this last month and still stayed at one above where we were last month. So we were at 153 last month, we're at 154 this month, and we still had almost 40-some individuals that were either released back into society or 10 that went back for violations. Okay. The violations are kind of small, too, the numbers.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I'll ask for a motion to approve Director Jeffers' report.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Jeffers.
Thank you, sir.
Warden Betty.
Good afternoon, Board. The average daily population for June was 652 inmates, 473 were county inmates. For the month of June, the prison averaged 564 adult males, 5 juvenile males, and 83 adult females. And the average population of U.S. Marshal Service detainees for June was 179. The overtime, out-of-county boarding, and community service reports are attached. Our staffing update is currently our correctional officers' numbers break down to 171 full-time uniform staff on shift, 1 out on workers' comp, 3 on continuous FMLA, 56 with intermittent FMLA, 2 with administrative leave, and 3 full-time vacancies, for a total of 180 full-time officers. As of June 30th, revenue was at 39%, expenses were at 52%. Extraordinary occurrences, there were 11 during the month of June. On June 1st, a county inmate was observed to be banging his head off the wall in his cell. Staff intervened and placed him in the ERC so that he could no longer injure himself. On 6/2, a county inmate began hitting her head off the partition in a transport vehicle to the point where she bloodied her face. Upon arrival at the prison, she was placed in the ERC for her safety. On June 3rd, a federal prisoner shoved an officer during an exchange, and during the altercation, a nearby staff member utilized OC spray to obtain compliance of the detainee. On 6/8, a county inmate who had just returned from court slammed his head off the metal table in the day room, causing him to fall to the floor. Staff placed him in the ERC for his safety. Of course, he was medically assessed. I don't want to leave that part out. I did on the note, so sorry about that. On 6/9, a county inmate was on a suicide prevention watch and was covering his cell's camera materials. Staff extracted him from the cell and placed him in the ERC so that they could clean the cell's camera, then put him back in. On 6/10, the same inmate again covered his cell's camera and also placed his mattress against the cell door as a makeshift barricade. A cell extraction was ordered. OC spray was used prior to entering the cell, and the inmate was extremely combative with the extraction team. The inmate was brought under control and placed in the ERC for his safety and for the safety of the staff. On June 11th, a county inmate appeared to be in an altered mental state. She was slamming her hands against the cell door and screaming out that someone had taken her baby. She then placed her mattress against her cell door and wrapped clothing around her face. Responding staff dispersed a burst of OC spray under the cell door, entered the cell, and placed her in the ERC for her safety. On 6/12, an individual being committed was displaying noncompliant and aggressive behavior towards the arresting officers as well as towards prison staff. The shift commander assessed the individual as being under the influence of some substance and combative, and therefore had this individual placed in the ERC for his safety while the medical staff checked him out. On 6/16, a county inmate made statements about harming herself and appeared to be under the influence of a controlled substance. Staff kept having to wake her up because she was falling asleep. The inmate eventually admitted to having had taken fentanyl and claimed that she had more on her person. She was then seen by our medical staff and was revived via the use of Narcan. The inmate then became aggressive and disorderly with staff and had to be placed in the ERC for the safety of all involved. I should note, just on this situation, that's a common reaction to Narcan is the person comes out of it and is aggressive. That's quite common for us to see. So for the public, that's my public service announcement. On June 18th, a county inmate covered his cell's camera and refused to comply with orders from staff. OC was introduced into the cell prior to the staff entering to extract the inmate and place him in the ERC. And on 6/23, 2 inmates got into a physical altercation after staff had separated them and were transferring each of them to the housing unit. 1 inmate slipped out of her handcuffs and began attacking the officers who were escorting her. Due to the inmate's assaultive behavior, she was placed in the ERC for the safety of the staff. With PREA, there were 7 PREA investigations that were completed in the month of June. 3 were allegations of on-inmate sexual harassment. 2 of them were deemed unsubstantiated, and 1 was deemed unfounded. 1 allegation was inmate on inmate sexual misconduct, and it was deemed founded. 2 were staff on inmate sexual harassment. Both were deemed unfounded, and 1 was an allegation of staff on inmate sexual contact, and it was deemed unfounded. All the results and the investigations are routinely handed over to the district attorney's office so that they can look into matters further if they so choose. Before I end my report, I just wanted to briefly mention that right now regarding COVID and staffing situations at the jail, to answer Joan's question, I mentioned in the beginning that there are 3 vacancies. We're right now in the process of hiring officers. When I wrote the report, it was 3 vacancies. It's now 4 vacancies, so I'm hoping that we shortly have 4 full-time officers and some part-time officers. That will help out tremendously with our overtime issue. She did notice, and I don't shy away from it, we're at about 60% of our budget at the end of June with the overtime line item. So we have to take some measures, and the first and most important measure is to be fully staffed. So we're working on that. I'm hoping to have a new group starting in early to mid-August at this point. Let me see what else. I also wanted to say, I didn't do an official count, but we're floating right around 70% of our staff have been fully vaccinated. With the inmate population, It's a little more difficult. We're probably at around 35%. It's also a little harder to judge because of people coming in and out. Some people are getting committed to the prison and claiming that they're vaccinated, and they're not. Some are. It's kind of hard to prove that. So I'm thinking that, stab in the dark, I'm thinking we're at about 35% of our inmate population fully vaccinated. And that kind of leads into my next thing. Right now, we've opened the door to regular visitation, and we want to allow for visitation. I'm obviously keeping a close eye and ear on what's going on with the Delta variant out there, because what we're doing is people that are coming in to visit, we're telling them, you have to prove to us that you're fully vaccinated. Even though it's between a screen, it's because they're going to have exposure to our staff and to other visitors that might be there. So we want to try to make it as protective as possible. So that's one of our requirements. You want to come and visit your loved one in jail, bring proof of your vaccination.
Are you requiring masks?
We are, yes. And thank you for bringing that up. I also want to let everybody know we're requiring our own staff to continue to wear masks when they're inside the facility. Only time they don't have to wear a mask is if they happen to be outdoors. And same goes for the inmate population. When they go out to what they call yard, when they have yard out, they don't have to wear their mask. They're out in the outdoors. We are still encouraging that they keep social distancing, because, again, with us, it's scary because anybody and everybody's coming right off the street, and we don't know, not just the old factors of have you been using anything. Now we have this other factor of a pandemic running around, and we don't know what kind of exposure the individuals have. So we continue to keep newly committed inmates medically isolated until they can prove they're vaccinated, and we give them a COVID test. If they can't prove they're vaccinated, we'll keep them in there for 10 days, and then we'll test them, and then they get out into general population.
You still have the block set aside for anybody who
I have
is
2
positive?
vacant housing units
Okay.
right now. So if some kind of major thing hit and we had to do that, yeah. But I would do this, obviously. Our overtime would go sky high, but, some things have to be, the safety of the individuals that are housed there is more important than the overtime line item. So if that happens, we do have room to do a big isolation housing unit. One housing unit holds 120, the other one holds 60. So we can go male and female if that were to ever happen, which I hope it doesn't.
What's the current situation? Calm?
Current situation, yeah, I don't know of any, at this point in time, I don't know of any active positive cases inside the prison at all. That's not to say there might not be one I just didn't hear about, but there's nothing that's on my radar as being highly concerned, and we need to lock down that cell, that block, that housing unit. We're not at that point right now, thank God.
Warden, what was the percentage of employees did you say were vaccinated over there? I didn't hear that.
We're right around 70%.
70%?
And that concludes my report.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the warden's report.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, anybody have any questions for the warden? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, warden, your report is approved. Stick around. I'm sure if there are questions from the public, we'll be able to access you.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll go
thank
back
you.
to my corner.
Thank you. Yo. Okay. 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 Okay, so Commissioner Dominic has advised that she would like to request an executive session to, so we'll go into executive session now.
Mr. Chair, what's the purpose of that?
I don't know what the purpose is.
Sunshine law that you disclosed that.
I just found out about it, so I just, what's,
It's a personnel issue.
okay.
What kind?
Personnel?
It's a change in title issue that I just want to make him aware of and the board aware
Okay. Voted to appoint Boris Krachunik as deputy warden for public relations at the prison. So congratulations, Boris. No, there was a discussion about changing title of a person who's currently in an acting deputy warden status for operations, Colleen Orzel, and we're going to make her remove the acting and make her a full-time deputy warden for operations if a motion is approved.
So I'd like to make a motion to remove acting from Colleen Orzel's title and make her deputy warden of operations.
Do I have a second on the question? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Of course, it'll have to be approved by the salary board as well, but since the salary board meets between now and the next, we'll be able, since she's already in the job and doing it, so she will be approved. Any other business from any of the members? Okay. Anybody from the public wish to address the board? Come on up. State your name, please, when you get to the podium.
Commissioners and Board, Reverend Doug Posgate. I'm retired Protestant pastor for 35 years in the area.
Can you bring your microphone up a little bit? So
And is that a little better?
that's better.
I
Thank
am
you.
soft-spoken, sorry about that. So I've served in the area and visited the prison for 20 years or so. And whether guilty or innocent, on any given day, any one person in this room could be found being charged, convicted, and sentenced and put into an incarcerated situation. So that's a very sobering thought. I know that for the past almost 10 years, there has not been a chaplain who's been situated at the prison. Somebody could correct me on that, but it's pretty close. Previously, Ricardo Jackson, Charlie Otto, Paul Gear served as chaplains there for decades. My understanding is that many facilities, whether they be county, state, or federal, have chaplains on staff. We do have 170 COs, not one chaplain. We're people of body, mind, and spirit. I'm not going to preach, but we are people of body, mind, and spirit.
You can preach, just don't pass the plate.
I was a Methodist.
Okay.
Okay. So we, today none of us has been convicted, but any one of us could be and sentenced. So I wonder if there might be a means by which funds could become available, be they canteen funds, be they outside funds, be they, there's a lot of money there. It's supposed to benefit those who are incarcerated, is my understanding. Might there be a way to restore chaplaincy? And just a couple of comments. I'm on a board of aftercare and prison ministries that I've related to for about 10 years. And right on the front of it, it says, remember those who are in prison as if you were their fellow prisoners. Now that gets pretty down to it. And that's instrumental for people of faith. And I understand that Jesus, as a Protestant or a Catholic would say, indicated, you visited me when I was in prison, or in essence, you did not. It's good that the prison is open to have folks visit. I'm thankful for that. I have done that recently. But I wonder if there might be an opportunity down the road for the chapel to be reopened for programs there. And so I put those things before you. Ask that they be prayerfully considered, if possible. And thank you. If there are questions, I would be glad to take them if that is appropriate.
I don't have any questions. I have a suggestion. If, you know, are you contemplating something that you would be interested in doing?
Well, that's inappropriate even to talk about at this point. It really, I don't have chaplaincy credentials.
Okay. All right. Sure.
I believe in speaking with Mr. Betty, Warden Betty. Is he still there? Oh, there he is.
Can you, is your mic on?
In speaking with Warden Betty, I do believe that there probably are canteen funds available for such a program. So Tim, you'll look into that. And I think the only other issue, which I vaguely remember talking about pre-COVID, was just the security aspect of it. And we do have a deputy warden of security. So Tim, Warden Betty will discuss it with Deputy Warden Shanley, and then somebody can get back to you.
Thank you all for your service. Thank you for your time today.
If you want to leave your number with Warden Betty back in the corner there. Thank you. Anybody else? Books.
Bev DeBarros, Scranton. Wore my DJ shirt because we got a $700 donation from Frank Semenda, one of the owners of DJs in Belmar on the Jersey Shore. My son works there, he's the carpenter, and
I've been there.
I figured somebody would have been there. So
Many years ago,
Frank
I've been
gave
there.
me $500 every year to spend, which I would spend on books. Last year with the COVID, I only spent partial. And then this year, I said, you know, your business has been hit. Don't give me any more money. We have the commissary fund, which should provide all these books. But they were pretty sure. They wanted me to spend $700 on trade manuals and to work on that end of it. Our other books are pretty well balanced, you know, with history and all those things. So this is an example. Oh, so I went to Career Technology Center, which we know about, and they loaded me up. I said, I have $700, and I got a lot of automotive. Could I pass these around?
Sure,
Manuals?
sure.
And like automotive, computer, stuff like that. Just have a look at how nice they are. And, sorry, here's a few.
Thanks, Bev. Thanks, Bev.
I think that is a really good start with the automotive. The other trades, electrical, plumbing, carpentry, nursing, dental, paralegal, computer, culinary, some of the things I could think of, that we could go to Johnson College and same thing, procure really good stuff. Oh, you'll notice that the plumbing book is a hardcover. We have about 8 of those. I talked to Krista Purvis about that, and when we get hardcovers, you know, donated for our regular book distribution, we have to take the hardcovers off, or we can't have them in there. But I would like to make, and Krista said maybe we could just get maintenance to cut off the front and back cover. But I really think that we could make an exception for this if we really keep track of the books. And that obviously the hardcover protects the pages. So the argument against hardcovers all the time is that they could be used as a weapon. And when we got tablets in there, I thought, what's the difference between a tablet and a hardcover book? But so speaking of tablets, that's another subject. Right now, the mail that we send in there is scanned and then read on the tablet. I know for a fact that not everybody has access to a tablet. There aren't enough. I don't know how many tablets there are, but there some people don't have access. So that's one thing. Another thing, when we went to tablets, I think Judge Gibbons got a copy of this, and the warden, and I never heard back. But this was one thing we did when COVID started as a way to get something in there because we weren't doing the book program. So we would send in the mail, you can have 5 pages to get in there. And for instance, we used a biology book and sent in, so this was educational. Like the page would be the diagram and then the text on many subjects. This happens to be skeletal system. We had all kind of biology topics. And so this would be 2 pages, and then we would have like a color sheet and a word search. So they had a nice packet and a private, and a message from us, you know? So that was a nice thing that they did get in there. And then the tablets came. Well, this doesn't transfer to tablets because you can't sit there and study all this on tablet form. So I asked that when we had something like this, could we put something on the envelope that says, please scan to paper and let the inmate have that? I never got an answer on that. So that didn't happen. Now, federal, we don't have any problem getting stuff like this in there. Of course, we can even send hardcover books in there, but that's another thing. So that was one drawback with the tablet where it wasn't useful for us. Okay, I just have a suggestion for when we have our in-prison meeting for the board. Are we going to be in the new place on Wyoming Avenue, or are we going to be in the muster room still, squished in there? And is the public going to have a tour of the new criminal justice building down there? I know when the new
Well, I don't think
prison
you could do that.
was right before it was opened, there were tours for the public. I was there.
I don't think that would apply for our requirement to move the prison. We don't have a prison facility. I can't speak to whether somebody would consider it. Could I make a suggestion?
Yes,
on your
please.
topic?
Mhm.
Perhaps you would want to consult with someone at our local trade schools
Mhm.
and get a curriculum that would be consistent with what they're doing, and then maybe we could bypass the problems with what you purchase individually and security concerns and have something that you could give the information and maybe fund the prison to purchase so we know what is coming in, and also have materials that would facilitate transition from the prison to the trade facility. Maybe down the road, we could look at a program where they could get a start and come out of there. But rather than just pick things that look good, we could have maybe a structure.
Thank you, brother.
So, Warden Betty and the deputy wardens, Purvis, Shanley, and Orzel, and I met. We're at we're still in a contract with GTL for our tablets, but we are talking about increasing the amount of tablets once moving forward into the future, whether it be with GTL or another company. And our goal, and Warden Betty, correct me if I'm misstating anything, but our goal is to have one tablet for each inmate. And right now we're at a lower population, but in the event that it does go back up to 900, 1,000, we're gonna also try to, ensure that in the event that that happens, that more tablets will be produced so that everybody has it. We've also discussed the fact that once that happens, some people are restricted to the use of the tablets due to misconduct. But because we're having the mail put on there, we are going to have a way to block them from everything else, but to still be able to read their mail from the tablet. So tablets really, we haven't had them in existence over there for a long time. But the deputy wardens and the warden are really working to try to update it and try to look towards the future. And with regard to the books, it's not, I never thought of that. I guess a hard copy can be used as a weapon, but I think the main issue that we've been having with, or the main concern we have with books is that, number one, they're used to communicate between inmates.
We hear all
And
that.
also, the same reason why we eliminated physical mail is the fact that drugs can be put on the pages, liquefied or something in some form, and then given to the inmates. So what we did talk about was trying to have, and not to mention, new books come out all the time, so you don't want to be giving them old books. So
Right.
I thought,
Right.
what about putting more books on, and for the indigent as well, who maybe don't have the money to access the tablet, they should still have some reading material. So we talked about that, about, making sure that the indigent do get, reading materials, and they will always have access to the law library in their mail, but putting on their books, and then as things progress and new books come out, like updating it ever so often. Whether or not something like that can be done, like the classes that you're talking about, or via electronically, I don't know, but Tim, maybe that's something that you can look into. I mean, I think our goal really is to try to get away from books because of the reasons I stated, and because of the storage aspect of it. Not saying that an exception couldn't be made for a particular class or degree or something, which we encourage at the prison, but maybe it can also be done by way of the tablet. So we are looking to see what we want moving forward with the tablet. So that's something else that maybe Deputy Warden should, or Warden Petty should take into consideration, and you can talk to him about it.
I've tried.
You can also call Deputy Warden Shanley, who's the security.
Yeah.
He's the one who really takes issue with the hardcover books, because
Yeah, and this would be
we
the,
really need to keep the drugs out of the prison.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
that's
this-
our first priority.
yeah, this would be the only exception. Now, we got that new $26,000 machine to scan the mail for drugs. So why can't we just scan all the mail that comes in and let the people have their, I mean, we bought
They scan the mail. What they do is they scan the mail, and then, and we do it on site. A lot of facilities will.
I know, they send it to Florida and all
Texas.
that, yeah, yeah.
GTL, their places in Texas, and we didn't want to do that because it's going to create more of a time lapse between
Right.
when the mail is sent and when the inmate receives it. But what happens is we have somebody on site right now, and we've even considered having whichever company we use, whether it be GTL or somebody else, put somebody on site so that it's not the Lackawanna County employee doing the scanning, maybe having somebody else from their company come in. But the reason why we scan it is that this way, they scan it to the system, and then if everybody has a tablet, there's not gonna be any issue, because everybody will be able to read their mail. The only mail that really is exempt from that is attorney mail. And we're even having problems with that because people are sending in mail pretending to be attorneys. So now we have this wand, because they have to scan the attorney mail to see, so drugs is a real problem. And, that our first priority has to be to make sure that we keep drugs out of the prison. But I'm a little, why are you so
why can't-
anti-tablet? But
Well, for this reason, that, that this was a good example of something that doesn't transfer, even though it can come in the mail, it doesn't,
it can't be scanned in?
it can be scanned in. But how long can you stare at that and then back to the other page that explains what this is, and back and forth, to really learn something in depth, where if you had this, and why can't you just take the wand and do regular mail if the wand works on legal mail?
I think if it's a narrowly, if it's a narrow, like, exception, and like you said, you would make sure that all books are accounted for and things of that nature, I'm sure maybe they could work something out at the prison, because education is something that we can obviously
Yeah.
encourage. I think it just needs to be executed properly, so that Because it's sad, but where there's a will, there's a way. And unfortunately, drugs get into the prison no matter how hard we try to keep them out. So I think you'd have to work with the deputy warden of security on that. But you're right, I guess in terms of learning, it would be difficult to learn what you're describing on a tablet going back and forth. So
Yeah.
I do understand that.
Thank you. Another idea I had with the trade books, and like, this is my vision, and there's probably a better one, but it's a start. In the back of Classroom B, I would like to see like 4 of the great big metal on wheels carts that and just dedicate that to, like, again, automotive, have all the different categories on that. That can be moved. People can come in to there and study there. And also, if we could get a person, a teacher, to come in for each category and have the people sign up, this would be good incentive. Like, you have to have good behavior if you could be accepted into this learning program. So, I mean, it's just a beginning of the idea, but I don't want things to go on forever. Like, when are we getting our regular books in there? When are we getting programs in the chapel?
Well,
When is
regular
AA
books,
going to start up?
We're looking towards not putting regular books back in circulation, but instead having them on the tablets. We have to address the drug issue.
We have 1,000 books in there.
And you have to remember as well that the people who are incarcerated, it's county prison, so it's not like state prison where they're there for, you know, an extended period of time. So you have to, I'm not dismissing any of your great ideas. I'm just saying that you just have to balance, you know, what you're saying versus trying to keep people sober in there. I mean, you know, I mean, we
even
don't
if
want
you're in
inmates
the-
to be overdosing on drugs, and it's bad enough when you have a loved one who goes to prison, but the only solace you have is that they're safe in there, and we need to provide that safe environment, because if we can't do that, what are we doing? So I think that's,
Even if you're in there a week or a day, a book or a magazine would be very helpful.
and they're gonna have access to that on the tablets.
There's a little difference between, anyway. What else? There's just so much else, and I appreciate the time that you've allowed me for this. And any questions? I know I am not very coherent. Any comments? Any help with any answer on the getting the programs in? The religious programs, the AA, the GED, and people are in there. I know a woman that's in there right now. She's been there 40 months. Now, she's federal. She's been waiting for her sentencing. That is not unusual. 36 months, 40 months in our prison. That's a long time to be without being able to read a book.
And that's why we really are trying to get one-on-one with regard to the tablets, because I do agree that every inmate should be able to have access to it, especially if we're not providing physical books.
Things are going to start to loosen up, Bev, but, you know, I mean, it's like everything else literally around the world. It's been happening. I mean, you know, everybody was on lockdown for a long time. And so you have to be extremely careful, and you have to be measured in your actions in terms of opening things back up again. You heard the warden say, we're just starting up with visitation again, okay? We want to get back to the regular programs, but we're taking our time in a very purposeful way. So we do it
Are they
the right.
expected to live their life in there without?
It takes a toll on everybody. It really does. I'm not, I don't discount what you're saying, you know, but we have an obligation to run a safe place and keep it as clean and virus-free as we possibly can. So you know.
Point, we want them to have a life. We want them to live their life. Drugs are getting into the
And
prison.
come out better than when they went in.
Yeah, we want them out.
Thank you.
You have really good ideas.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Eileen Acapinti.
Okay.
Do I need to spell it? Do you want me to spell it? Oh. Yes. Eileen, E-I-L-E-E-N, Acapinti, O-C-C-H-I-P-I-N-T-I. And my concern is the volume of money in the commissary fund. And so I have 3 questions regarding that. Do those funds, are they solely derived from the profit made by charging the inmates for whatever incidentals they buy? Or is there another avenue of money coming into that large fund?
Yeah, the majority is of the profits made.
That, to me, sounds like a lot of money, hence overcharging. And my second question or concern there, the people that are contributing to that fund are the loved ones at home. Obviously, the inmates aren't generating an income. If they are, it's minuscule. But their mothers, sisters, wives are putting money into that fund for these people to be so overcharged, hence they're making sacrifices at home. So if there's any way we could look into that, I don't know if you have contracts with commissary people or who manages what's being charged. I know that sounds like it's very, you know, they have bigger jobs to do, but that's impacts a lot of families, I think, tremendously. And obviously, if we have that much money, we've been overcharging. My third question concerning that is the $26,000 machine, the scanner and all that, that came from the commissary funds, is that correct?
Yes.
Money from that? So why doesn't that come from a capital budget that the prison runs on? Why is it coming from the expense of the prisoners being overcharged?
Well, you're using the term overcharge very loosely. I mean, we have an agreement with a vendor that runs the commissary, and so that they're the ones that charge. You know, we get, you know, certain amount of money from those charges, and we accumulate it there. We use that for things that will benefit the inmates. The scanner has a benefit for the inmates because it facilitates, you know, their receipt of mail and other materials so that we can make sure that what we're giving them isn't adulterated in somehow with drugs, because as you may have heard earlier, it's become a very commonplace method of transmitting drugs through letters, cards, any type of writings, and which has not been easy to detect over the years. And we're also getting now counterfeit correspondence appears to be coming from attorneys to inmates, and it's not. And there've been
So is the practice common then to take the money from these commissary funds instead of a capital budget to purchase big equipment like that? Is that normal in other?
As long as it benefits the inmates, Eileen.
yeah.
All right, if you just would consider maybe lowering the fees for those people that are at home and supplying the money for those inmates. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Oh, we have somebody? Oh, yes, okay, I'm sorry. Dave, I'll pull the microphone down.
Is that the right place?
There you go.
There you go.
My name is Anna Young. In the fall of 1970, I went to the Lackawanna County Prison for the first time because we went to a worship service on Sunday, and I asked, when could we have the worship service for the women? And they said there was no worship service for the women, that the priest came in. And so I'm thinking, but women need fellowship. They need to be together, and it's like a little family thing. And so I went to the warden, and I have to say that every warden at the Lackawanna County Prison has never said no to any program or anything that we have wanted to do to help and encourage people there. And so Mr. Betty knows who I'm talking to back there. He knows. Very precious. The wardens are just very precious because they want to help the people. And that's why they're there. And so my program now is called Project Reentry. So I want to tell you, whoever came along now with that name, I got there first. So be careful who you're talking to with Project Reentry. But anyway, it's been a blessing to go to the prison and help the people. When I have become acquainted with someone there in our little groups, I've taken a lot of people home with me because they didn't have any place to go when they were leaving there. And I knew if they left that jail, the first one they're going to meet outside that jail is the devil to say, come on, let's go back where you came from. And I think, oh, God, they've done so good in here. We can't let that happen. And so my children and I voted that when I came to know someone in the prison, that I would be allowed to take them home. And so we had a big house, and so we had room. One time we had 3 sleeping bags in the dining room, just been released, 3 in the living room, and I had 4 bedrooms upstairs. So 2 of those were for people who came out of prison. I just want to tell you one thing. If you can help someone coming out of there, help them. I don't know of anyone that I helped has gone back because of other charges. They might have missed their parole officer's meeting they're supposed to have, or they were late for something, but to commit another crime, they didn't. I'm not saying people haven't done that, but I'm saying the ones that I brought to my home did not do that. So my point is, help someone that can get on their feet, because people do not like prisoners. And I'm the first one to find that out when I ask for help. What are you talking about? Helping old people? Are you out of your mind? Well, for 51 years, I've been out of my mind because I've been at the Lackawanna County Prison for 51 years. And I'm happy to say that. And my denomination gave me an award for 50 years. But it's only a black little plaque. And you know, I'm a hillbilly from West Virginia, so coal is our thing. And I thought, oh, I've got a plaque made out of coal. And the man said, I hate to disappoint you, but it's only black glass. But anyway, it was that. I don't need that. I have never needed anything to encourage me to go to the prison. I go to the prison because I love the Lord. He loves me. And at church one Sunday when Reverend Paul Gear was the chaplain, did anybody remember Paul Gear when he was chaplain? Oh, he loved the people in that prison. And now I forgot what I was going to tell you. But anyway, Paul Gear wanted us to do everything we could to help. And every chaplain since then has wanted to help the people. So I think that's what I just want to thank the county commissioners for not stopping any program or anything we came up with, and have supported the programs at the prison. I was the founder of Teach One to Read so they can teach someone else to read. Laubach, help me with that. Don't get to be 90 years old and have to do something and you can't do it. Well, anyway, there's a reading program, which I was the founder of when I went to a meeting in New York one time, and Dr. Laubach was there talking about how you teach someone to read. And I had taken some books in the prison, and the young man would say to me, give it to somebody else, and I can't read. And I'm thinking, you're 23 years old and you can't read. And that's how it was in the prison. There wasn't a lot of people in there that knew how to read. And I think that was part of the crime thing, too. So now we want to help the people in the prison. And I just want the county commissioners to know, do everything you can in there to help those people, which you are on the way to do, and how things have changed since the fall of 1970. Thank you.
Thank you for all your help. After 51 years, Warden, she should have her own parking space out there. Okay. Anyone else from the public? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.